I caught a predator pretending to be lost, right under his hotel sign. I need to tell you about the night I almost let a stranger follow me into my apartment. This happened about 3 months ago, on a Tuesday in late September. I manage a small coffee shop downtown, and I'd stayed late to finish inventory because our district manager was coming the next morning. By the time I locked up, it was 11:47 p.m. I remember checking my phone because I was annoyed at how late it was. My battery was at 23%, and I had this dumb habit of getting anxious when it dropped below 30. The walk from my shop to my apartment is only 15 minutes, and I've done it 100 times. My neighborhood is one of those older residential areas with narrow streets, big trees, and historic brownstones. During the day, it's beautiful. At night, especially on a weeknight when nobody's out, it gets really quiet. Like, uncomfortably quiet. It was drizzling that night. Not raining hard, just this annoying mist that made everything slick and put halos around the streetlights. I had my hood up, and my hands jammed in my jacket pockets. I was listening to a podcast through one earbud. I always keep one ear free when I'm walking alone at night, something my mom drilled into me. The streets were completely dead. I didn't pass a single person on the first 2 blocks. I was maybe half a block from my building when I saw him. He was standing on the corner near the entrance to my street, and at first I didn't think much of it. Just a guy. Middle-aged, maybe late 40s or early 50s. He was wearing this bright blue windbreaker, the cheap kind that crinkles when you move, and a dark baseball cap pulled down low. He had a small backpack that looked old and beat up with fraying straps. He wasn't doing anything threatening. He was just standing there, looking around like he was confused. When he saw me, he waved. Not aggressively, just a little half wave like he needed help. I pulled out my earbud. "You okay?" He looked relieved, like I had just saved his life. "Oh, thank God. I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm completely lost. I am trying to find my hotel, but my phone—" He gestured helplessly at his screen. "The GPS is not working. I have been walking in circles." "Where's your hotel?" He said, the Grandview Hotel. "Do you know it?" I stared at him. The Grandview is a massive luxury hotel downtown. It's one of the most famous buildings in the area. It has this huge, old-fashioned neon sign on the roof that you can see from blocks away. And here's the thing. We were standing directly underneath it. I mean, directly underneath it. The sign was literally glowing above us, maybe 50 feet away. It said Grandview Hotel in bright red letters with an arrow pointing to the entrance around the corner. You couldn't miss it if you tried. Sir?" I pointed up at the sign. "Sir, your hotel is right there, just around that corner. You can see the sign." For a second, he didn't react. He just stood there, looking at me. Not looking at the sign, looking at me. Then his face changed. It's hard to explain, but it was like watching a mask fall off. The distressed, confused expression just vanished. His face went completely flat, neutral. His eyes didn't move. He didn't blink. He just stared. And that's when my stomach dropped. I don't know how to describe the feeling. It wasn't like I consciously thought, this man is dangerous. It was deeper than that. It was this horrible, cold wave that started in my chest and spread out to my arms and legs. My body knew something was wrong before my brain caught up. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. My hands started sweating inside my pockets. He still hadn't said anything. He was just looking at me with that blank, empty stare. I didn't unlock my door. That was the thought that screamed through my head. Don't let him see where you live. My apartment was right there, literally 20 feet away. My building has this old iron gate with a keypad entry, and my door is on the ground floor. If I'd walked to it, if I'd punched in my code, he would have known exactly where I slept. I made a decision in about half a second. I took a step back and yelled, "Fire! Help! Fire!" I didn't yell help or call the police because I'd read somewhere that people are more likely to respond to fire than to someone screaming for help. It sounds stupid, but in that moment, I didn't care. I just needed noise. I needed witnesses. I sprinted past my building. I didn't look back at first. I just ran. My boots slapped against the wet pavement, and I could hear my own breathing, loud and panicked in my ears. I made it maybe half a block before I risked the glance over my shoulder. He was following me. Not running, not chasing, just jogging. Like he was pacing me, like he knew I'd get tired. That's what made it so much worse. If he'd sprinted after me, it would have been terrifying, but at least it would have made sense. This was different. This was controlled, calculated. He wasn't trying to catch me right away.
He was just keeping up. I ran faster. My lungs were burning and my hood fell back, and the drizzle was getting in my eyes, but I didn't stop. I turned onto the next street, which was brighter and busier. There were a couple of bars still open, and I could see people outside smoking. I heard music coming from somewhere. There was a diner on the corner, one of those 24-hour Greek places with fluorescent lights and a big window. I could see people inside, and there was a bouncer standing by the door checking IDs for the bar next door. I ran straight to the entrance and slammed through the door, so hard it banged against the wall. Everyone inside turned to look at me. I must have looked insane, soaking wet, out of breath, wild-eyed. I ran up to the counter and screamed, "Call the police. There's a man following me and he has a knife." I lied about the knife. I didn't see a weapon. But I knew that if I just said a man is following me, they might not take it seriously. People hesitate. They think maybe she's overreacting. Maybe it's her boyfriend. Maybe she's drunk. But if I said he had a knife, they'd call 911 immediately. The woman behind the counter's face went white. Oh my God. Okay, she grabbed the phone. The bouncer from outside pushed through the door. "What's going on?" "There's a guy," I gasped. "He followed me. I pointed toward the window." The bouncer looked outside, and I looked too. He was standing across the street. Just standing there, under a streetlight, staring at the diner. The bouncer stepped outside, and I saw him square his shoulders, puffing up like he was ready to fight. He shouted something I couldn't hear. The man didn't react. At first, he just kept staring. Then slowly, so slowly it made my skin crawl, he turned and walked away. Not quickly, not like he was scared, just left, like he decided it wasn't worth it anymore. The bouncer came back inside. "He've gone. You okay?" I wasn't okay. I was shaking so hard I had to sit down. One of the waitresses brought me a glass of water, and I spilled half of it because my hands wouldn't stop trembling. The police came about 10 minutes later. I gave them a description: blue windbreaker, baseball cap, backpack, accent. They took notes, but I could tell they didn't think they'd find him. One of the cops told me I did the right thing by running and not going to my apartment. He said, if someone's pretending to be lost right outside your building, they're not lost. I called my friend Sarah and she came to pick me up. I didn't go home that night. I stayed at her place and I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, that flat, empty stare. I told you that's not the end of this story. Then, about a month later, I was scrolling through a local crime Facebook group, one of those neighborhood watch pages where people post about stolen bikes and coyote sightings. Someone had shared a news article. The headline said, "Man arrested in connection with multiple home invasions." I clicked on it and my blood went cold. It was him. Same face, same cheap blue windbreaker in the mugshot. According to the article, he'd been arrested 3 weeks after my incident. He'd been targeting women who lived alone in ground floor apartments. His method was to approach them near their homes, pretend to be a lost tourist, and then follow them inside when they unlocked their doors. Once inside, he'd assault them and rob them. They found a backpack in his car. Inside were zip ties, duct tape, and a knife. The article said he'd been watching one of his victims for days before approaching her. He knew where she lived. He knew her routine. I don't know if he'd been watching me. I don't know how long he'd been standing on that corner before I walked up. But I know one thing for sure. If I'd unlocked my door that night, if I'd let him see where I lived, I wouldn't be here to write this. I still take the long way home sometimes. I still look over my shoulder. And I never, ever help lost tourists anymore. Not when they're standing right under the sign they're pretending they can't see.
The worst part? That article I found wasn't even the end of the story. About 2 weeks after I read it, I got a call from a detective, Detective Sarah Chen, from the Metro Police Department. She said she'd gotten my report from that night in September and wanted to ask me some follow-up questions now that they had the guy in custody. We met at a coffee shop, ironically not the one I manage. I picked a place across town because I was still paranoid about him knowing where I worked. Detective Chen was younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s with her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She had this calm, professional demeanor that somehow made everything feel more real and more terrifying at the same time. She ordered a coffee, flipped open a notebook, and said, "I want you to walk me through that night again. Every detail you remember, no matter how small." So I did. I told her everything. The drizzle, the time, the way he waved at me, the sign, that horrible blank stare. When I got to the part about him following me with that slow, controlled jog, she stopped writing and looked up. "He didn't run after you," she said. It wasn't a question. "No, he just kept pace, like he was waiting for me to get tired."
She nodded slowly, like this confirmed something. That's his pattern. He doesn't chase, he follows. He wants his victims to feel like they can't escape, like it's inevitable. It's a psychological thing. He breaks them down before he even touches them. My stomach turned. How many were there? Victims, I mean. Detective Chen hesitated. Officially, 4 confirmed cases where he actually got inside, but we think there were more attempts. Women who got away, like you, but never reported it because they weren't sure if anything actually happened, or they felt embarrassed, or they thought we wouldn't believe them. 4 women, I repeated. My voice sounded hollow. 4 that we know of, she corrected. And here's the thing, you were almost number 5, but you did something different, something none of the others did. What? You didn't go to your door. Every other victim, they tried to be polite. They gave him directions, walked toward their building, and when he followed, they thought he was just confused about which entrance was his. By the time they realized he was coming inside with them, it was too late. But you recognized the danger immediately and ran in the opposite direction. I felt sick. The Grandview Hotel? The sign? That's what I wanted to ask you about. Detective Chen leaned forward. You're absolutely certain he was standing directly under the hotel sign when he asked for directions? Yes, I pointed at it. It was right above us. She wrote something down, underlining it twice. None of the other victims mentioned that detail. They said he asked for directions to various places, but they assumed he was genuinely lost because they didn't know the area well enough to catch him in a lie. You were the first person who could prove he was using a script. A script? He rehearsed it. He probably used the same story multiple times, tweaking it based on the location. But he got lazy with you, or maybe he was so confident it would work that he didn't bother checking where he was standing. Either way, you caught him, and the moment you did, he dropped the act. I remembered that moment, the way his face went blank, the way he just stared. What did they find? In his car? The article mentioned zip ties and a knife, but Detective Chen's expression darkened. You don't want to know it all. Yes, I do. She studied me for a moment, then sighed. Okay, zip ties, duct tape, a hunting knife with an 8-inch blade, a roll of plastic sheeting, bleach, garbage bags, gloves, and a Polaroid camera. I felt the color drain from my face. We also found photographs, she continued quietly, not of his victims, of their apartments. He'd take photos through windows or after he left, like trophies. We matched 3 of the photos to the confirmed victims' homes. Oh my God. There's more. He had a notebook, handwritten. It listed addresses, physical descriptions, work schedules. He'd been stalking these women for weeks before he approached them, learning their routines, figuring out when they'd be alone. My hands were shaking again. Was my address in there? Detective Chen shook her head. No, we think you were a target of opportunity. He probably saw you walking alone, followed you from the coffee shop, and decided to try his method on the spot. If you'd unlocked your door, he would have added you to his notebook afterwards. I couldn't speak. I just sat there, staring at my untouched coffee. I'm telling you this because you need to understand how close you came, and because I want you to know that what you did, yelling fire, running to a public place, lying about the knife to get people to take you seriously, that saved your life. You made every right decision in a situation where most people freeze. I was terrified, I whispered. That's what kept you alive. Fear is an instinct. You listen to it. She asked me a few more questions after that, whether I'd noticed anyone following me in the days before the incident, whether I'd seen the man anywhere else, whether I'd be willing to testify if the case went to trial. I said yes to the last one, even though the thought made me want to throw up. Before she left, Detective Chen handed me her card. If you remember anything else, call me. And if you ever feel unsafe again, if you see someone following you, if something feels wrong, don't hesitate. Don't talk yourself out of it. Just run. I've kept that card in my wallet ever since. The trial happened 4 months later. I didn't have to testify in person. They let me submit a written statement and a video deposition because the defense attorney agreed to a plea deal. He got 23 years. No parole. I looked him up online after the sentencing. There were more articles, more details. Apparently, he'd been doing this for years in multiple cities. He'd move every time the police got close. He had a fake passport, 3 different aliases, and a storage unit full of stolen items from his victims. One of the articles interviewed a psychologist who specialized in violent offenders. She said predators like him rely on social conditioning, the fact that most people, especially women, are taught to be polite and accommodating even when they feel uncomfortable. He weaponized politeness. I think about that a lot. I also think about the women who might have been his next victim if he hadn't been arrested, the one who didn't have to live through what I almost lived through because I ran. Sometimes late at night, I still wonder if he's thinking about me, if he remembers the girl who got away, if he's angry that I didn't play along. But then I remember his face in that mugshot, empty, cold, unrepentant, and I realized the truth. I wasn't special to him. I was just another opportunity that didn't work out. And honestly, that's the most terrifying part of all. He's in prison now, and I'm safe. But there are others like him out there, standing on street corners, pretending to be lost, waiting for someone to be polite. So if you're ever walking alone at night and someone asks you for directions to a place they're already standing in front of, don't be polite. Just run.